Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are and whatever it is. Here we're starting to learn a daily shir. This will be going on every weekday, Sunday to Thursday, except for Erev Shabbos, Erev Yom Tov, and Yom Tov Sheni Shagolius, because we wouldn't want to miss out from the boys in the Chutz La'aretz. Okay, so let's start. This is the first sugya. It can be a bit broad. It'll take a few times. You have quite a few sources in front of you. Let's start with the issue on hand. Okay, the issue on hand is basically why is there no bracha, or is there a bracha on Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim bichlal, according to those who feel that it's a mitzvah at least Rabbanan, and Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim b'leil tesvav Nisan specifically, which l'kulal it's a mitzvah d'oraisa. So the first source in front of you is a Tshuvas Harash. I'd like to see the Tshuvas Harash and analyze it, and let's see what we can do. So the first source is the Tshuvas Harash in Klal Chav Daled Beis. By the way, this is interactive. Anybody having questions, please speak forth. Okay. V'shesha'alta lama ein mevachim al Sipur ha'agada. That what you asked, why don't we say a bracha on the telling of the Haggadah? He does mention it, that it's a Sipur. We do say the Haggadah. His answer is as follows. Habei dvarim siva kadosh baruch hu la'asot zeicher l'yetzias Mitzrayim. There are multitudes of things which Kadosh Baruch Hu commanded zeicher l'yetzias Mitzrayim. And actually, if you think of it carefully, how many things do we have exactly in the Chumash, in the mitzvahs, which are directly written in the Torah as Zeicher L'Yetzias Mitzrayim? One which you're rethinking about this. Well, obviously Shabbos is one of them in the Aseret Sedibim to the Zacharta Ke'evra Yisrael Mitzrayim. So that's actually found in Luchos Shnios and Parshat V'Eschana. We have a few things. Even Tzitzis is not Zeicher L'Yetzias Mitzrayim. It's signed off as Ani Hashem Elokechem Asher Tzitzi Eschem Me'at Mitzrayim V'Yos Lechem Le'Elokim, but doesn't say that the Tzitzis is a Zeicher L'Yetzias Mitzrayim. What exactly is Zeicher L'Yetzias Mitzrayim? Well, the psukim which are distinctly about Zeicher L'Yetzias Mitzrayim is the parsha in Shmos Yud Beis, where there the Torah says Zocher es Yom Hazeh She'yitzasim Mitzrayim, and then includes in that mitzvah also the idea of Kedushas HaBechorah, the Isurim of Chametz on Pesach. So it says over there, all those are part of the Zocher. The mitzvah Vigat to Lebincha, and ultimately Tefillin. They're all there in order to keep a Chayzik Yodi at Sechashem Mitzrayim. The beginning of the parsha is Zocher Yom Hazeh, and then it continues and ends with Kibbiyot Chazaka. So we can understand that these are the mitzvahs which are Zeicher Yetzias Mitzrayim. Well, he continues and says, Kigon, he brings up Rosh's B'chayris, which is Taka, Mefurish in the pasuk, and then it says V'chal HaMoedim. This is just an aside. I didn't really want to deal with it at length, but it's a bit of a psicha, b'divrei Agada. But where do we find a makar in the Chumash that the Moedim are Zeicher Yetzias Mitzrayim? The best you have is maybe in Sukkot, which says Kibbutz Sukkot Shabti is Bnei Yisrael, the Man Yeder Seichem, so that could be a Zeicher Yetzias Mitzrayim. We know the famous Bach that says that Ein Chanami, whenever it says Leman, it means to say it's a kavanah which is miyakid. It's a kavanah which is miyakid. That Das Habach. I don't know if we pass that way with Dina, but definitely we should chayshish to it. So there we have a Zeicher Yetzias Mitzrayim, which is Taka Kavanah Me'akeves. Where do we exactly? Well, Pesach, we have it probably. It's very simple. That group is the din of Pesach, and that is the halach of Yisuri Chametz are mefurish in the pasuk. Yisuri Chametz are mefurish in the pasuk. And Avoda Avodas Avoda Azois, based on the Zocher Yom Hazeh Mitzrayim, is also mefurish in the pasuk. And if you see in Shmos Yud Beis, the question is going to be obviously Shavuos, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, because in all of them we also say in the Kiddush Zeicher Yetzias Mitzrayim. Now, where exactly does the do the Anshe Knesset which formulated the nusach of the Bracha L'chayra in the Tefillah, you have in the Shemoneh Esrei of Moedim constantly also Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur Zeicher Yetzias Mitzrayim and Yom Matan Torah Seinu and Yom HaZikaron, etc. and Yom Kippurim. So where's the
that possibly through the mitzvah of HaChodesh?
Say it again.
Is that possibly through the mitzvah of HaChodesh HaZelachem?
Oh, there's no kiyum mitzvah as Chodesh Zelachem in.
No, but that's Kovei the Moadim.
I understand.
Kovei the Moadim. The Kovei the Moadim is a function of Yetziat Mitzrayim.
Neil, you're 100% right that the kviyas is a function, but that's not true as far as, so to speak, as far as the kiyum of the mitzvah. Being Kaveh Amayid and the Kviyah of the Mitzvah are two separate things. That's first of all. The din of Kviyah Amayid is not only in you, it's only in Bezdin. You have to excuse me. The Zeichet says the Shrine Pashas in the Seder is talking about your Kiyum, your Yom Tif, not the Bezdin's Yom Tif. Since when are you Mechuyim Kviyah Amayid? Lo Yehoyu Dvarim Ayla. Right, thank you. Good question. That comes all the way from Minneapolis. Thank you. So, what does this mean? The Pashtus is that I wanted to presech a shtickle with Divrei Agada to open this up. Go to your second sheet and the Tefillah V'ata V'chartonim V'kol Ha'amim. Ahafta Yishana Ratzisa Banav V'ramtonu Kol Ha'shonis V'kidashtonim T'secha V'kashanim Akenla V'desecha V'shimcha Agada V'akar Shalena Karasi. That's the Nitzach HaTefillah, which is l'chayr the Matbei of Anshik Knesset Agdayla. If we understand the something Gemara that they were together. So in the pure Siach Yitzchak, this is the Siach Yitzchak Malchin, which was the editor of many of the, and the printer of many of the Ksavim of the Gra. He brings, I'll say it, well, we can see, I will read selectively what he brings here. He brings some kind of a sefer called Torah. I don't know which one this is. I'm sure there are a few of them. He writes that Bechira, Abba, and Ratzon, those are the two verbs found in Arta, Ahavta, and Ratzisa. And I'd add, and the parallels to them are Remamta, Remamta, Kidashta, Vikeravta. But he doesn't talk about that. We'll see shortly. What are these three verbs of Bechira, Abba, and Ratzon? So the Siach Yitzchak writes that the Gedera Bechira, I'll use his language, Gam im lo yimatzeh bocher et hanivchar kilvavo. In other words, when you say someone is chosen, it doesn't mean it's the optimum. You choose somebody, doesn't mean you know that's the best in the world. I'm not talking about people who are recently engaged. You don't know it's the best in the world. You know it's the best, that this is the best that's available. Okay, that's what you know. And you understand that obviously it means to say one of two things. Either A, it's better than anything else. I'm not going to go checking everything on the globe. So obviously the best that's available. Or the possibility even it isn't that good, but you have some kind of reason to invest in it because you believe it has tremendous potential in the future. He has a very nice language on that. He says, oh, sheyesh lo tikva, he has hope. I guess he's talking about a Amologis Shidduchim when they used to take Chasanim when they were 13 years old. The best they could say it was a tikva should be Ish Chayil Yavim Sheyavoy. This is called Bechira. Ava is obviously not that way. Gedera Ava, he says, Im Echad Yimtzai Ish Kivavo Asher Al Pulato Yiknei Ava. Love is already another emotion. It is something which is unique, which you gravitate towards, and you have an obsessive desire for constant proximity. This is obvious. This is the idea of Ava. But you know, Ava alone has a certain gvul because it can break. Ava, at the end of the day, there's a gvul there, which whatever the reason with the Ava, that could somehow end. As he writes, but then he said there's the third getter, which is called Ritui, Ratzai. There's no reason for Ratzai. The beautiful language in Akedas Yitzchak.
Language is in the Akedas Yitzchak, Rebbe. I looked it up. I don't think that language is in the Akedas Yitzchak. I think the editor is trying to hide who the Chacham that he's quoting here is.
I didn't check it out. That's the answer with Ellie. That must be you. I didn't check it out. But the idea is a beautiful idea that when you're obsessive, you have no eyes. It is very true. So we say,
correct. He's quoting Schopenhauer. Schopenhauer famously expounded on the idea that human will is blind.
Well, that's exactly what maybe he's quoting Schopenhauer. You never know. I doubt that Rabbi Malshin heard about it. Thank you, Ellie. Onwards, and he brings the pasuk Achacham Eino B'Reisha, so he understands the idea that his ratzon, his obsessions, lie in the realm of the cerebral. It's an interesting take on the idea of Eino B'Reisha, as opposed to he says that, so to speak, a person with cheshik, a Baal Taiva, doesn't have eyes. Here he seems to be saying that the Chacham Eino B'Reisha, his taivas, his eyes lie in the realm of the cerebral. A very important idea. Therefore, he continues and says, that basically God took us out of Egypt as we were in Nifcharim, we were Beicher. He took us out. We were in bad straits. We discussed this in the last night's shir of Sipur and Mitzrayim, and in other times we were Avdavai, and He chose us. Why? Because of the future. Because He invested in us that after roughly 2 years in the desert, we finally settled down and embraced monotheism without bickering and complaining, which seems to be, which is great, a great investment in the future. That's Bechira. Then finally, Avav, yes, we finally came to Matan Torah, he came to Shavuos. He loved us. The idea of Torah, the whole idea of the love of Torah, goes on Matan Torah, Kimavur in the Gruan in Midrashim. It's called a Nishika, okay? That's Shavuos. And finally, afterwards, we blew it as usual, and we had the Egel. And now we had the Egel. Now, an interesting thing happens in the Egel. So basically, there was a big ritzui. God decided, you know what? I want you, although it makes no sense. And He was willing to forgive and read the covenant. Now, if you want to know carefully, this ritzui started on Rosh Hashanah and finalized on Yom Kippur. This is found in Iran. The Ran that you have in your sheets over here, the Ran asks, why is there a mishpat on Rosh Hashanah? Ran answers, because although the Ritzui started on Rosh Hashanah and culminated on Yom Kippur. So Kodesh Baruch Hu was Kabeh Yom HaMishpat in the beginning of this Mana Ritzui. It's quite a non-impartial mishpat. It's already a mishpat b'shas Ritzui. Okay, and the Mishpat Rosh Hashanah is the Rosh Chodesh of that Ritzui. It's the beginning of the Ritzui. The Lashon of the Ran is Rosh Hashanahvad Yom Kippur hitcha Hashem lisratzos leMoshe u'b'Yom Kippurim lisratzos legamra. Achratza Kadosh Baruch Hu lodom b'Yosef bisman shehukva lekapar v'lislicha. So this is the idea. So now we understand, and finally, what is Sukkot. So Sukkot we know as brought in the Gra, in the page that you have, where the Gra explains exactly what the story was, and he says, you know, we do sukkahs keneged anane hakavod. So the Gra writes in Shir Hashir in Perek Aleph, Pasuk Dalet, on the Pasuk Meishorim Ha'Ivucha, state in Gra as follows. He says, Neged sukkah shuzeicha lehekef anane hakavod, shaya talui b'biyin ha'mishkan ki yadua. What does this mean? Ubezeyu turas mashihik shulama nachlo osim sukkot b'tishrei. Kivan she'u neged hekef anane hakavod hara ra'ui lasot b'nisan. Ki b'nisan hayat chilat hekef ha'ananim. This is the famous question which even the Torah and the Nosei Kevin discuss. Avonira zok the Gra lefi kisha osu es ha'egel nistalku ha'ananim. They left us. V'az lo chazru ad she'itchilu asot ha'mishkan. And when did this start? Zok the Gra, Moshe Yerad b'Yom Kippurim. He came down Yom Kippur with the B'suras Haritzui u'b'machas, which means Yud Aleph b'Tishrei. Mechaz Yom Kippurim v'yakel Moshe. We just read it recently. V'tziva m'leches ha'mishkan. V'zeh hoya b'Yud Aleph b'Tishrei. U'ksiva am eviu oid nedava b'adava b'bayke, which means 2 days of bringing the materials for the Mishkan equals Beis Yomim. That means Yud Beis and Yud Gimel. I'm always very happy. Yud Beis happens to be my birthday. So this is the beginning of Nidvus HaMishkan. This is the idea of Nidvus HaMishkan. So Yud Beis and Yud Gimel. Ubi Yud Daled b'Tishrei. Notlu. Kol Chach Meleit Moshe Hazah b'Minu b'Mishkan. And then in Tesvav Tishrei, Yitchilu La'asais. That's when they started building the Mishkan. V'az Chazru Anane HaKavod. That's when they returned. And this is the idea of Sukkot. So if you look at it carefully, yes, it is all one idea of Yetziat Mitzrayim. The klal of Yetziat Mitzrayim was, as we know, the pasuk says, we say, "Ba'avur zeh osa Hashem li b'tzeisi b'Mitzrayim." Sheit Rashi, the name of the medrash, "Ba'avur shakayem b'tzvaysav kemay matzu amar." We look at the matzah mori only as an example. The kuda ikuz ba'avur shenasim b'tzvaysav, which is what the Kadosh Baruch Hu told, what Moshe told her to the Jews, Tavdun Elokim b'Har Hazeh, which meant Matan Torah. So Mamela, we understand that the goal of Yetziat Mitzrayim, as elaborated on yesterday in Shir, was to take us away from paganism and bring us into a covenantal relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which culminated actually with Shavuos, which is Mir Matan Torah, specifically according to Shittas Rashi, that the bris was the day before. Thus, we now understand the pair. These are all Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim, whether it's Pesach, which is Bechira, which is Shavuos, which is the Ava. Ultimately breaking that, and we had to have a Rosh Hashanah and a Yom Kippur for Ritzui, and then finally there was the outcome of that reality was with what? With Ritzisa Banu. What was it? The final Ritzui started on Rosh Hashanah and ended with Ashras Shechina and Sukkot. So here you have it all one big zeich. It's one big talich of Yetziat Mitzrayim be'etzem. Okay, you see Mitzrayim, which means, as the Ramban writes in the Hagdama of Parsha Shmais, that until the Jews had the Ashras, the Shechina, and the Mishkan, they did not have Ashlamas HaGeula. When were they called Geulim? If you read the Lashon of the Ramban and the Hagdama to Sefer Shmais, it's when the Anan came on the Mishkan. Please read that and you'll see it Mefurish. There you have it. The Talich, the process of bringing that Anan back on the Mishkan after the Egel was through Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, ultimately Sukkot. This is this Gra. And this is the Pshat Atav HaChartanu, is Pesach, HaHafta, is Matan Torah, Yishakenu, Mishikas Piu, Rotzisa Banu, Ritzui. Ritzui means the Maisa Sukkot, which started a process through Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Reimam Tanu, Mikol HaLashonis means we were lifted beyond all other nations. That's the Bechira. That's Atav HaChartanu on Pesach. Kidash Tanu b'mitzvah Sacha is Shmuas with Matan Torah, which is parallel to a Haftarah Sanu, and finally Keraftanu Malkein La'avodah Secha, the being of the Mishkan and the Kerbanis. This is the idea of Ratzisa Banu. V'Shimcha Agadol v'Akar Shalena Karasa. This is the Ashras Shechina, which finally we are called Geulim. So now you understand the pshat in this tefillah. I think it's important to understand. This is the pshat when we say that all the Moedim are Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim. We look at Yetziat Mitzrayim not just as the story of the Exodus, but its theological purpose, which is Ashras Shechina, to be called redeemed through Ashras Shechina in the Mishkan, Kimavur Ramban. I suggest again that you read that in the Hagdama to Shmais. Now let's go further. So what does the Rosh tell us? Rosh says that there are a lot of mitzvahs which are Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim. We don't make a bracha on that mitzvah of Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim. In other, what does that mean? There's no mitzvah of mentioning during a fresh's b'chayros or during the Ma'idim, no mitzvah of mentioning that it is a Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim, which is interesting. In other words, Me'ikar Adin, although Yom Tov is Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim, there's no need to mention that as Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim. Okay, he writes it before. It's only an idea of believe. It's not an Indian of Dibur or saying it all. Kadosh Baruch Hu commanded to the Maisa of Kiyum Yom Tov, the Maisa of Afrashas B'chayrish, the Maisa of Pidyon Petach Chamor, the Maisa of Arifis Chamor, etc., etc., etc. The Maisa of Anachas Tefillin, I'm going to add there also. Okay, that Maisa, and through that, Yetziat Mitzrayim. It's not that we have to do anything specifically about Yetziat Mitzrayim. We do a mitzvah which is called Afrashas B'chayrish, and we make a bracha, Pidyon Abchor. We do a Maisa mitzvah Anachas Tefillin. After the whole Anachas Tefillin is wise, because we should remember Shawat, it's a pasuk at the end of Pasuk. That's a double pasuk. Okay, and Afal Pikain, we don't make a bracha on Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim because there's no mitzvah of saying it then. You should somehow, the putting on tefillin should remind you of it. That's a problem. As I mentioned in the previous year, yes, one should try to conjure up the image and bring that memory into his mind when he puts on the tefillin. That's why I always suggest to say the Yeratzin before tefillin. Not that I usually say all these different Yeratzins, but here there could be a kiyum of a deraisa by remembering what's in the tefillin. It's not just a black box with 4 pieces of parchment, identify what's in there and realize it's all Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim. But whatever it is, the Ma'aseh mitzvah is not the Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim. The Matorah of the mitzvah is Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim. The goal of the mitzvah is Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim, and that's a goal which is believed. Therefore, the bracha is not on the goal which is believed, but rather on the Ma'aseh, on the mitzvah of its own, which is Bchor, Tefillin, and so on and so forth. So how does that answer the question? So he ends and continues further and says, "V'lav dafka hagoda b'peh." This is what we said before. We started by saying al sipur hagoda. That's lav dafka. The chiyuv is not to say it b'peh. Elim yishal mefarshim. Shita the Rosh is there's no mitzvah l'saper b'Yetziat Mitzrayim. It's a mitzvah lizkar Yetziat Mitzrayim. And if you're alone, you don't have to say it, you have to think it. If the child asks, then you have to say it. Now, what does that mean? It means to say that according to the Rosh, we'll absolutely have to juxtapose this to the different shitos and rishonim. The shitos of Rosh is very clear. It's a mitzvah shebelev. And the ikar kiyum is belev. Ad kedei kach, the din of dibur is not ma'akev, it's not necessary. The old time we have a din of dibur is only the pasuk of what? Of Igata Labincha. Zok the Rosh, what is this? If the child asks, that's when you have to answer. It's a pella. We'll see in 2 minutes. This is against the Mefurshim Mechilta de Rashbi. But I don't know if he passed that Mechilta de Rashbi. But he says, if the child asks, then you have to answer. If the child doesn't ask, that equals, and he also is capable of bringing up the image on his own, then Gesundter hate. No, the mitzvah is you must bring up the image of Yetziat Mitzrayim in your mind on Leil Pesach, and if your child isn't capable, you got to help him bring that image in. It's not a zaytik mitzvah. It's not like there's a mitzvah for you to, hey, you remember it. And what's the makkah of the Rosh to remember this? Where does he get his makkah? The makkah is a davar pashut because we understand what is the mitzvah of Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim. So if you open up a yad, I think I sent it you in the last sheet. I don't know if you have it with you. If you open up the yad, you will see in Rambam in Perik Zayin Hilchos Chametz Umatzah, where the Rambam Taka writes, mitzvahs I say, here, let me open the Bechama Rambam. Mitzvahs I say shel Torah, l'saper ben nisim and niflosh and aslav v'sedim Mitzrayim. He obviously argues with the Rosh. He defines the mitzvah not as a mitzvah to remember, but a mitzvah l'saper. Goes to the Rosh, that's not the mitzvah. B'leil chamisha aser ben nisan shenemer, and he brings the pasuk zocher siyem hazeh she'yitzasim leMitzrayim. Now the primary makar is not the pasuk of Igata Labincha. The primary makar, as mentioned before, in that same parsha in Shmois Yud Beis, is Zachar Yamadesh Yitzosim Mitzrayim. That's the makar. The Matorah is believed. There's no question about it. Then he brings further, but we'll discuss this Rambam shortly, but this is the makar. This is the makar. Zachar Yamadesh Yitzosim Mitzrayim. That's found in that Rambam that I sent you literally half an hour ago. That's the makar of this halacha. So now we understand that. Here it is, yeah. So obviously the Rosh understood that the mitzvah is zachar. And the din v'igata, he did not take it as a separate mitzvah. Why did the Rosh know? Well, that's the case if it's a mitzvah shebelev. Maybe igata is totally a separate mitzvah. How does he know? What is the relationship between the zachar and the v'igata? And the answer is because the Rosh also learned Mechilta, the Rabbi Shmuel. And the Mechilta Rabbi Shmuel is before that which you know in the Agada. How do we know it's Leil Tes Vav Ben Nisan, this din of Zachas Yom Hazeh She'yitzosim Mitzrayim? So the pasuk says by the pasuk V'igata Labincha B'yom Ha'uleimer Ba'avur Zeh, and we dash Ba'avur Zeh B'shah Shematzu Mor Munach Lefanecha. And that's how we know the mitzvah is Leil Tesvav. Freshtuch the Kasha. How do you know that the mitzvah of Zachar? Maybe that's only the mitzvah of Yigadita. The Chmuchach Mikan from Chazal, that's not that way. Chazal understood that whatever we have to do on Leil is Leil Tezvav and nothing else. Al kochach muchach mikan. That the two psukim of Zachar and Vigata have some kind of a relationship. Now, how would we define that relationship? It is a relationship of what we call essence and form. Teichen and Tzura. That's the relationship. The essence is Zachar, and that's the Pchosek HaMechai. The Tzura, the fashion, how to do this Maisa Zechira, is by saying it. Whether saying it to others to plant the idea in other people's minds or saying it to yourself. It's an interesting concept that the pshat is that we have to articulate, not just to think, but to articulate and to orally say it. Different possibilities are there to explain this. I'm not going to go into it at length in halacha, but there is a concept that by saying things become crystallized, formulated, and also you totally understand what you're doing. Many times people think, and and it's very, very, very shoddy. It's not clear. It's al derech dvarim shebalev einam dvarim. You have to have a certain understanding. Sometimes you say things to internalize them. So this is obviously the getter of the halacha. The mitzvah of l'saper is only a means towards an end. It's a means towards an end. The ikar mitzvah is zachar. That's a davar pashut. So the Rosh took for granted that it is true that the Zachar and the Agata are one, but the Vigata is only in place of a question, which is very interesting. Why do I say this? Because in the Mechilta, we know Adirabba, the Vigata is on Misha Eino Yodel Lishon. It's you're initiating it without a question. Yet the Rosh writes that this Vigata is Dafka if he asks. Obviously, we have a problem with the Mechilta, the Rabbi Shmuel, which quotes this pasuk for She'eino Yodel Lishon. But as we already mentioned in 2 shurim ago, that Mechilta is not talking about Pshuta Shel Mikra and not Ikar Adin. It's borrowing biblical characters and putting new ideas in them, as we elaborated on 2 shurim ago in the Chelik Aleph of the Shir on Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim. Was it last week?
Just going back a second, Rebbe. So the Seder of the Rush was everybody sitting there in silence until the tour said, "Hey, what's going on?"
No, you don't have to elaborate, Eli. It's very simple. No, that's not what happened. That's what the minimum you have to do. But obviously, they're what we call, you see, as opposed to today, Noshim and Ktanim really did not know. Remember the times of the medievals, and the typical lady was busy churning the butter and darning the socks and spinning the wool. She did not have much capability of knowledge, as you recall, as the Rambam in his time quotes Noshim and Ktanim as people of minor intelligence. For them, there was a mitzvah to say to them. Lashon the Rambam is to tell them lefit sachus l'shoina. Yes, there was a necessity of implanting in their mind the image of Yetziat Mitzrayim for whatever purposes it has, as we discussed at length last night, actually, in the shir on Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim number 2. You can get it on YouTube if you want. So it wasn't silent. That's why he started his shaila by saying, we are l'saper. If you look at the language of the Rosh, he took for granted that we spoke. Wasn't that his language? Sipur ha'agada. He took for granted that there was a Sipur ha'agada. He only says it's true. By default, we do that because people ask. But that is only a default. It's due to a certain issue. That does not define the mitzvah. I repeat, it's a very interesting halacha. The mitzvah is not to talk, but to think or implant the image in other people's minds. If I could possibly, transmit my thoughts into another person's mind without speaking, that would be enough. I wish I could do it. It would save me a lot of laryngitis. But no.
When the Gemara talks about Abaya, the Abaya was a youngster, and he has more. That's the same concept.
It wasn't Abaya, but you're good.
I'm sorry.
Okay, it doesn't matter. But you're right, because for a katan, once again, there's no brera but to say. He needs a question out there. He wants to implant the idea. Let's understand the Russian Daila Rishonim. Let's understand how he understood those Gemaras. It's very clear that he understood that was only b'makom shaila, or someone which is not capable of thinking without us bringing it into his mind. When he says shaila zicher lav dafka, what happens if a guy doesn't ask, but he doesn't think? There's a mitzvah of you to plant the image in his idea. That's probably how he understands when it says she'eino yodel lishon. The idea is there's a mitzvah of zachar to think, to have living with a vivid image and to planting that image in other people's minds. By default, we have no other medium at the moment through saying, by relating to whatever level it is. This is how the Rosh understands the mitzvah. Now let's take this a little further. It is obvious now, let's just look at the Rambam for a moment to understand how the Rosh very much differs from the Rambam. The Rambam, as mentioned, writes that the mitzvah is zachar. And yet, as he writes, mitzvahs asay shoter l'saper, the mitzvah is not liskor as the Ramban, the Rosh puts down, but l'saper, differently to talk. He believed that the din of Sipur is ma'akev in the mitzvah. B'nisim v'niflot shenasla v'sen b'leil tesvav b'nisim shene'emar. He brings the pasuk of zachar. He does not bring the pasuk v'yigadita. He brings the pasuk of zachar, and he says, now, where's the source of this idea? Well, the source of this idea is a Mechilta de Rashbi, quoted actually in the Sefer HaMitzvahs in Kufnun Zayin, but I will read the Mechilta de Rashbi to you. I have it here. Vayemer Moshe el ha'am zocher et hayom hazeh, mishum shene'amar vayakish al ish alcha bincha machar leimor yochol im sho'alcha ata magid lo v'im lav I ata magid lo tamid lomar yigato lebincha af al pi shelo sho'alcha. Now, what pasuk is that going on? That's going on the pasuk of Zohar. And it says, Mefurish, we would have thought that only if the child asks, then we have to answer. And if not, you don't have to say it to him. No, we have to say it to him. Why is this on the pasuk of Zohar? This should be on the pasuk where you got the lebincha. The Teretz, the Rambam understood the Mechilta the Rashbi is saying that I got the lebincha is not an independent reality. It's a tzuras hakim of the Zohar. It's the way and the fashion we are Mekayim Zohar through Vigat the Lebincha. That's why he quotes this Mechilta the Rashbi. Shene'emar Zohar Yeminish Yetziat Mitzrayim. So the Makar is Zohar. That's the Makar of the Rambam, which is probably that's Pashut. The addition of the Rambam to Moshe Ne'emar Zohar Yom Shabbat is not found in Mechilta the Rashbi. At the moment, none of the Midrashei Halacha available to us, to me, which is actually to us because I have a good library. It's not there. We do not have such a Medrash Halacha which adds K'may Shenema Zachas Yom Shabbos. Rambam quotes this also in Sefer HaMitzvahs, the same language. It would seem to be this is not he actually the equation to Zachar and Haggadah, as he says Shenema Zachas Yom Hazeh. That's a Mechilta de Rashbi. The K'may Shenema Zachas Yom Shabbos is not a Mechilta de Rashbi. What it is a Medrash Haggadah in Shmos Rabbah. Perik Yutes, Piska Ches. There it says something else. There's a very interesting Medrash in Shmos Rabbah. So the Medrash here it is. And the pasuk Kadishli Kol Bchor, it says, Reb Nassan Omer, I'm skipping a bit. He's a early Yisrael, Kishem Shebarati Ta'olam, V'amarti La'em Yisrael. Niskor et Yom HaShabbat, Zecher L'Maaseh Bereshit, Shene'emar Zechor es Yom HaShabbat, Kach Havu Zochrim Anisim She'asisi Lochem BeMitzrayim, V'zechru L'Yom She'yatzasem Misham, Shene'emar Zechor et Yom Hazeh She'yatzasem BeMitzrayim. Here we have an early Medrash Haggadah, and that's the only one we do have, which equates Zechiras Shabbos to Zechiras Yetziat Mitzrayim. What the Rambam simply did here is he said the mitzvah is Zachar, and that he knows from the Mechilta the Rashbi. Just like the Zachar of Shabbos, which is also what? Is also an idea. Now, what the idea just like Shabbos? That's quoting this good Medrash Rabbah. But why would the Rambam do this? Why would the Rambam suddenly decide to make this interesting idea, which is basically Aggadic, within this psicha of the halachas? This is not the place where Rambam adds Aggadic material. Aggadic material is found sometimes in the beginning of halachas, overwhelmingly at the end of them. Or Punkta Ridden suddenly decide to tell me that the idea of Yetziat Mitzrayim is like Shabbos, based on a Medrash Rabbah in the end of Parshas Bo, is a bit of a problem. to say the least. It's definitely a bit of the problem. Well, what is it? Well, let's look at the context of what he's saying here. Well, the context is quite clear, because what's saying here, he's saying the mitzvah is l'saper, and he's bringing the pasuk of zachar. Now, naturally, what does zachar mean? We all must be aware of the Torah's kainim found in Bechukaisai. When it says on zachar es asher asalacha amalek, so the Torah's kainim writes zachar bepeh yochel belev kishu omer loy sishkach harei shikchas alev mitzuya mani mekayem zachar eva omer bepeh. What does that Torah's kainim say? That Torah's kainim teaches us when we say the word zachar alone, we naturally only think about thinking. It's belev. But since we have, if that would be the case, that zachar by Amalek meant belev, why are we adding loy sishkach? The Torah's kainim doesn't believe to add a loy to the essay. I'm not a Tana, so I don't usually engage in my arguing with Torah's kainim. It's an interesting idea. He has a problem. So why do we need loy sishkach? It's superfluous. If there's a mitzvah to remember, why do you have to add the loy sishkach? I repeat, the nice yeshiva bach would say lo ha'isiv alav to an essay. That's a chayes that the kainim Sipur de Beirav doesn't think that way. We'll leave it at that. Okay. As to why, I guess we have to think. But whatever it is, tam zechira is belev, and because there's a superfluous loy sishkach, therefore we understand specifically that the zachar of Amalek is also bepeh. But without the loy sishkach, all would agree the stam zachar is belev and not bepeh. So now you have an interesting idea. By the Torah's kainim teaching me the co-relationship between zachar and the gadita is one of essence and form, because it's equating by saying the mitzvah zachar is there to teach you this idea of what? That you have to remember it even when there's no child, etc., as we learned before the Medrash Halacha, which is quoted here. Again, mitzvah say l'saper. We have to say this as it says zachar. Now, how do I know that that zachar is bepeh? Maybe that zachar is belev. So the truth of the matter is, we know it from the Torah's kainim equating the zecher to the gadita. He is giving an example. This piece is not Medrash Halacha, it's Rambam himself. The example is based on the equation, the lashon of the Medrash Rabbah in Perik Yutes Ches, that there's an equation between them. He uses that equation in this context to say, just like by Shabbos, zachar is not just belev. Look at the Ramban in Zachar Yom Shabbos Lekadshai in Yisrael, and you will see Lekadshai means b'dvorim. We have to say things, we have to miyachad things for Shabbos, etc., etc. Please read it. There are certain midrashim, certain sheets that show that the Kiddush Hayom is a mitzvah deraisa. Alayayin is a machlekes harishonim, whether it's rabbanan or deraisa. But Kiddush Hayom is deraisa. That's a din of dibur. So Zachas Yom Shabbos Lekachi is a zikorin, which is kadosh, which means to say with a ma'aser of Kiddush. Ad kedei kach, a ma'aser of a Kiddush, that the shittas arrived is that when we do Kiddush on Shabbos, we're not just saying things, we're actually adding a dimension of man-made Kedusha to Shabbos. The Ravid asked the Kasha, how can you call Kiddush in the morning Kiddush? You already Mekadosh it at night. The Ravid asked this question. The Rambam calls it Kiddush. The Ravid says, why are you calling it Kiddush? Shabbos is already Mekadosh at night because you're Mekadosh it at night. Two things I see in this Ravid. A, that Kiddush means making a chalois of Kiddush. You're actually giving an idea of Kedushas Peh to the Kedusha Kayemis of Shabbos. Parallel to the Gemara at the end of the first parak of Nedorim, that even a firstborn, which is Kaddish Merechem, is a mitzvah like Dishay Bepeh. To Furish Gemara, maybe we should learn it in the end of the first parak of Nedorim. Easy parak, try it. Okay? Very little amount of Gemara, big runs, so you really should know it. Anyway, so it's Kedushas Peh. There's no Kedushas Peh on Shabbos. Frank the Rabbit. So how? That's number one. It's a Chiddush Gadol. There's Kedushas Peh on Shabbos. B, You do it once you're Mekadosh the night, that's the whole day. What does the Rambam hold? Rambam obviously holds it. No, there's a b'zundra din of Kiddush HaYom and Kiddush HaLayla. Mitzrayim, one day, if we learn Aviv Psachim, I'll teach it to you. Based on Midrashay Chazal, are there two Kedushas and Shabbos, Kedushas HaYom and Kedushas HaLayla? Is it one Kaddish, as far as Kedushas Peh is concerned? But this is clear that Zachas Shabbos L'Kachoy is not just memory. This memory, this mitzvah of Zachar, expresses itself in being sanctifying the Shabbos. Make a Chalais Kiddush on the Shabbos through Peh. What can it be more than that? So this is Das HaRambam. That he holds that there's two Kiddushim, Kedushas HaLayla and Kedushas HaYom, as opposed to Raiva, which thinks there's only one Kiddush, which is Kiddush HaYom. Is it 24 hours or 12-12, as one would put it? And this is probably what the Rambam is doing. I repeat, this piece of K'moshe Nemer Zechzir Shabbos L'Kachoy is not in the Midrash Halacha. That's not Chiddush from Rambam. The context is to tell me that from the pasuk Zachar, we understand it's the Saper. How does Zachar become the Saper? Because the Agdara is just like over there. The Kiddush HaYom is a tzura of how to be Mekayim Zikaron. It's Zachar L'Kachoy. The Gadta is a tzura of how to be Mekayim Zachar of Le'ayim Adesh Yisrael Mitzrayim. That's the equation that the Rambam gives when he writes a K'moshe Nemer Zechzir Shabbos L'Kachoy. Well, it seems to be quite clear that the Rosh does not think that this Agada is a Gilui Milsa, that it always has to be this way, and that's the Machlekes. The Rambam believes that since this is the drasha, we take for granted that this is the tzura. It's a tzura for everybody. The Rosh doesn't think so. The Rosh explicitly says no. It's a tzura only in place of necessity. Everyone agrees that it's a tzura, it's a form of fulfilling Zachar Shabbos L'Kachoy, of Zachar as Mitzrayim. The question is this the ultimate only tzura, or is it a tzura in place of necessity? That is a machlekes of Shikla Dasar Rabbi Shana Rishayim. I have no reason to go to mix my brains into there. This is what seems to be here. So this is a machlekes number one, a very important machlekes. But then we're going to ask, but according to both, it's interesting. The Rosh seems to imply that if this was a constant surah, then he would say that's not a mitzvah shebelev, that would be called a mitzvah shebediba. Because if this is what the Rosh writes, by Haggadah Shel Pesach, what does he say? You really don't have to say it the whole time. It's only if he asks. If you understand that Zachar and Haggadah, one is content and one is surah, why don't you just say the content is the Zachar and the Dibur is only a means towards an end? Maybe you don't make a bracha on that either. No, he thinks that if the idea is that the content and the surah are constantly there, then the mitzvah is not liskor, the mitzvah is l'saper. And if the mitzvah is l'saper, although the goal may be the liskor, then you should make a bracha. That's how the Rosh understands. The Rosh only says that's why Yetz v'lav dafka Haggadah b'peh. What's he doing here? Eleim yishem mefarshim lai, implying exactly what I just said. That if it would be dafka Haggadah b'peh, then that vigata would be a gilui milsa, that's what Zachar means, dafka through peh, which is Shitas HaRambam. Then he would have no problem of saying that this is a mitzvah shebediber shematarasei belev, you made a bracha on it. Just like tefillin, it's a mitzvah anachas tefillin with a matorah of zechiras Mitzrayim belev. We make a bracha on the ma'aseh mitzvah anachas tefillin. We make a ma'aseh on afrashas b'chayris. Why? Because the ma'aseh mitzvah is a ma'aseh. Afapi that the matorah is zachar is yem zeh shetzasem Mitzrayim, as found in the pasuk. That's Shitas HaRosh. It's because of that he comes to the conclusion that no, that is not a surah which is mischayiv. It doesn't define the mitzvah. It is only a form needed to fulfill the zachar when you can't do anything else. As I said before, if hypothetically, if we could today transmit our thoughts, like what's it called, airdrop, I don't know, whatever, you transmit your thoughts in other people's minds without talking, that would be great. That would be great, but that's not what's happening. This is
Rebbe, what about transferring thoughts not through airdrop, but through pantomime or art or some other thing that's not talking, but it's not magic?
That would be very interesting. But since the Torah already told us the idea of the saper, I imagine Torah understood the most clearest way would be through talking. I'm going to say the lashon of the Rambam is kfit sachus l'shoynai. I know that we have different antics on the Pesach Seder, and we do multiple things, whatever different customs. Bruchim you, I'm not going to turn over the cart. The Rambam only mentions speech and clarity of speech. Doesn't mention the other antics. I would imagine it's not worse than other things we do, Zeich Yetziat Mitzrayim, but it's not the surah which is demanded in the Bible. I'm going to leave it at that, okay?
It might be a relevant question if someone was hard of hearing or had laryngitis.
Oh,
If
that's
someone
a
had,
good question. If you're if you're a cherish and you cannot speak, but you hear, so you're chayiv in mitzvahs, how would you do it? Well, that would be an interesting question. Possibility could be, say, if something which is written before Yom Tov, you could show it to him and he would read it. That would also be good.
sign language.
Possibility, maybe. I don't know. Honestly, this you'd have to ask people who love doing these things. I'm not a plumber. I don't do
First, in the
theoreticals.
This is the way that the kid learns, and this is the way that the kid learns.
Lashon L'Sapim specifically. Read it. Kitzachus L'Shoynei. Maybe you should read the Lashon Rambam. It's a good thing to do.
But he also says in the
He doesn't mention more than that. With greatest respect, I think the Rambam was talking about speech. Yeah, probably. I don't know. I can guess. That's all I can do. And educated guesses aren't worth much. You know, as my father always used to tell me, what's not mukhrach, it's usher to say. What's mukhrach, it's mutter to say. But there's no mitzvah to say anything. Just remember, that's the principle I live with. So therefore, Veisachnish at the moment, I love saying that because, you know, I'm an educated Veisachnish is better than all these boichsvars. Let's go further. Okay.
1 second. The Rosh does say, Ve'im lav, hu shoalet.
What are you saying, Dalia?
In the Chidushei Rosh, in the Harei Psochim, he says that im lav, hu shoalet atzmo.
This is interesting because it doesn't fit. Now, what does that mean? Why do you need the Rosh for? That's a Gemara.
Agreed, but I want to see the Rosh quotes it.
Yeah, it's a Gemara. So what does it mean? How do you think it means according to the Rosh? What do you think it means? Oh, come on. You're a bright human being, Homo sapien. You're a good member of the species. How would you answer that?
Well, you would say thinking, but there is a Rosh.
Are you capable? Is there a possibility of Amira Belev?
There's a Nusach, but yeah.
Let me finish. Is there a possibility of Amira Belev? Yes or no? It's a pasuk in Esther. Yes, there is Amira Belev. If there's a possibility of Amira Belev, is there a possibility of Shaila Belev? It's a yes or no question.
A possibility.
Is it yes or no?
I said there's a possibility.
That is the only possibility that we can understand the Rosh with. I agree. Basically, the Rosh, it's a daichek, but it's very clear the Rosh understands it that way. There's no other way. Unless the Rosh is chayzer and shuvas from his psukim, but then why doesn't he mention that question here? He doesn't mention the question because the davar pashitim that's not a kasha. Now, the only way to diffuse that question, say it doesn't say over there it's bepeh, it could be belay. Lay guard and good old, our cousin Haman, which was also Eimer Beliboy. So if you can be Eimer Belibcha, you can be Shoyel Belibcha. Okay, are we good?
Going back to this, the Rambam in the Yad in Chometz Umatzah Zayin Gimel says mitzvah lehodia lebanim, and that was actually written originally in Hebrew, unlike the Sefer HaMitzvos. It's mitzvah lehodia lebanim, to make it known to them. How would we to do it?
Eli, you're jumping back up the wrong tree. We know that that's a Rambam because Rambam said the mitzvah is l'saper. I'm talking about the Rosh now. You're mixing up the Rosh and the Rambam. In the Rambam, it's clear it's l'saper. He does not think like the Rosh. Again,
but he's saying the Rambam says lehodia. The Rambam says lehodia.
Eli, I'll explain. Again, we have here an argument between two great medieval scholars. We know there's a relationship between Zachar, which is thought, and Haggadah, which is speech. Now, which clearly that's the Mechilta de Rashbi, no question about it. We also know that from the Mechilta de Rabbi Shmuel that the 15th of Nisan is the time Ba'avur Zeh, and that tells us when you do the Zachar. Those two things are not questionable. The only question is the relationship is one of Tzura versus Teichen. Wait, Chaimer and Tzura, as we would call it. Let me finish. There's only one argument. According to Rambam, this means to say that the only way of fulfilling the mitzvah is by speaking. And that's Lahodia, Lissaper, and all the great things. According to the Rush, for yourself, you don't need that. It's only if the child doesn't know, then you have to tell him. That's what the Rush says. That's Lahodia, granted. But that's a surah of Lizkar, but it doesn't have to be for yourself. You do not have to. Where does it come from? The pasuk v'yigadta? The idea is nothing more than explained to be yigadta. It means to say. The mitzvah was l'saper. Let's get that straight. So therefore, I don't see.
I'm saying that I'm going back to the question that we had before: whether you can tell in another way, whether you can tell, however the child is going to understand, and it's when he formulates it as lehodia, that it's not speech specifically.
That is, excuse me, I'm going to be nice. You're waxing poetic. Because if you read the Rambam till the end, the examples here giving in that halacha to explain that idea are all talking about speech. Read the halacha till the end, please.
No, I can read the halacha and the end of it. He says he only has speech when he's talking about the little kids. I'll read the whole halacha. I'll read the whole halacha.
I love you, but you're wasting my time, excuse me. Because it's very clear that you cannot inject into the Rambam that which he doesn't say. You cannot make it more than what the text says. The text simply says,
I'm not the one who's saying that it has to be oral, Rebbe. I'm not the one who's saying that it has to be a speech.
Because the examples he gives is oral, and the pasuk he gives is oral.
No, one of the examples that he gives is speech.
I think I'm going to say it again.
But
maybe.
You said Lahodia. I'm taking it at face value. I'm not the one who's reading it.
I think what you're not being disciplined and limited to the language of the text. You don't mind adding things which are not mukhrach. Me, I grew up in a world. I'm going to say it again.
You know, it's funny because I was going to say the same thing.
We won't get anywhere with this. It's a question of how we deal with the text, okay? Let's be honest about that. I'm trying to say, I don't know you're wrong. I don't know you're right. You seem to be convinced that you're right. I'm almost convinced you're not, but I can't say it. Okay?
All I'm saying is I'm reading the Rambam. That's all I'm doing.
You're not reading the Rambam. You're reading your read of the Rambam. I'm reading the Rambam too. Okay, let's go on. I really disagree with your read of the Rambam. I do not think it's accurate. I think it's waxing poetic. I think it's adding much more than the text carries. If you'd be a lawyer and you would write a contract, if you would read contracts your way, then lawyers would be. We wouldn't need lawyers. We could need poets. This would in a legal document, one does not read the text that way. That may be true, in poetry or in literature and philosophy, but definitely not in a legal text. And Rambam is a legal text. You can't read more than what's there. The
it doesn't mean that the Rambam doesn't say what the Rambam says, Rabbi.
Smiling, jumping, walking around with matzah on your back and wearing funny clothes and screaming, "Oh, we just left Egypt," and all these funny things. We do not know that. If the Rambam brings specifically all the examples of Dibur, you don't know. You can extrapolate that if you choose, but you don't know that to be true. So can we leave it at that? We're going to argue. This won't get anywhere. This is not going to take us anywhere. So we're simply going to agree not to agree. Okay? Okay, good. Let's go further. You don't have to show me that, Rambam. I see it. I have it in front of me. Okay, weiter. This seems to be the machlekes of the Rush and the Rambam. Now, there's one underlying principle here, which seems to be clear in the Rush. That is a mitzvah, which is purely in Zikaron, would not have a bracha. Purely a mitzvah which is purely in Zikaron would not have a bracha. Yet the Rambam seems to say it's a mitzvah which is bedibur, which is a matorah for Zikaron. There, we would make a bracha. Now I want to read a certain Maral of Prague, found in the verse Hashem, since you have that in your sheets, in Perik Samach Gimel. Maral of Prague, as we know, outside of being a interesting, mystic philosopher, but for most important, he was the most prominent student of the Maharshal. That's what we have to put down over here. So now we're looking at him as Talmudist, as the most prominent student of the Maharshal. He was, if the Ramah was the smallest Talmud of the Maharshal, this was the Maral of Prague, way, way, way big up there. So let's read what he writes. The Maral of Prague writes in verse Hashem and Perik Samach Gimel in this Madurat Yadut Nebrak, right column, the last few lines, you have it underlined there. V'im Tomar, should you ask the question, Lama ein mevorchim al Haggadah, why do we not make the bracha birchas mitzvah, obviously, on Haggadah? Sharei mitzvah lisaper, this should be underlined, b'yetzias Mitzrayim. So we should have made a bracha on this mitzvah per se. I want you to remember the language, the way it's written here, because the next time we're going to convene, we'll be learning a Navudram. And the Avodram quotes the Rif asking the question totally differently. I need you to parallel the way the Maral asked the question versus how the Avodram quotes the Rif, asks it totally different. Once again, the question of the Maral is G'dolei Talmidei Marshal. The Rif is G'dolei Rishonim. So there is obviously, we have to see what the differences are. The question there is written totally different. Let's look at here carefully. What is the answer? V'yira'eh. It would seem to be Kivan de Iker Hadavar Hu Machshevet Alev. Since the primary part of the mitzvah is the thought of the mind, Zikaron. Now he adds a line here, which is a very important. The Tzarich La'avin Mashe Amar. Saying the Haggadah without understanding, just telling kids to read the Haggadah and read and read and read without understanding, or people saying it like it's some kind of a Gregorian chant without understanding what they are saying. I repeat, there's a far cry between people knowing how to translate sentences between comprehending what they read. Havana does not mean Yedias Pirush HaMilim. Havana means understanding, comprehending. I have many people which I know how to translate very well, but if they ask me afterwards, can you paraphrase that in your own language? They go brain dead. So he says, without understanding, it is meaningless. That's a very strong statement. Without understanding is meaningless, and therefore, this is the litmus test. Is this a mitzvah shebediber or a mitzvah shebelev? And the answer is, Iker hadavu machshav zalev. How do I know? Because if you don't understand, lo have a midi. So you just point down something very interesting. There's a mitzvah of l'saper. As he wrote before, mitzvah l'saper. But he says, although it's a mitzvah l'saper, ikrai balev. It means the saper is only a means towards an end, and the end is basically belev. How do I know that? Because if you lack the belev, meaning havana, to the extent of understanding what you're saying, lo havimidi. This is a given here. Thus, we come to a conclusion that it's not a mitzvah le saper as an independent reality, a value of talking. And we hope you'll remember. But no, it's not like Bechor, that you do a Maisa of Bechor, and we hope you'll remember. If you won't remember, you also time the mitzvah of Bechor. It wasn't a Bracha of Atala on a fresh Bechor, if you didn't remember, see it's Mitzrayim. But over here, if you did the Sipur without remembering, without knowing what you're saying, it was a waste of time. Much better to say it in English for everybody to understand and comprehend versus struggling through Hebrew and not really knowing what you're saying. And you do a little translation. God helps me. The guy, I'm not sure whether he understands or she understands what you're talking about. So Yisrael lahavim asher amavim loy came loy have immediate meaningless. V'kiven sha'ikehu balev, and since the primary mitzvah now is nothing more than the havana salev, balev does not mean thinking. And once again, balev does not mean thinking words. It means understanding. Because I also know how to think Latin, I don't understand it. There's no problem of thinking words. Machshavi here means understanding content. Okay, is that
So this
clear?
supports my intention. Sipur is actually
let's first finish the sentence. I will sum it up. Okay, I'll just 1 minute. So the idea is the sapir means to say, as I mentioned before, to implant an image in people's minds or in your own. It's not a mitzvah of saying things. This is not a Gregorian chant. No, this is not. No, it's like not what many people do with their davening. You actually have to understand. If you didn't understand, you wasted time. Then he continues and says, "V'kiven she'ikaru balev lo shayach bracha, ella b'mitzvah she'ikar shelo b'maaseh." There's no bracha if the ikar mitzvah is believe, and the ma'aseh is nothing more than a means towards an end. You only have a bracha and a mitzvah which its ikar is b'ma'aseh, although it has an agenda of bringing a leiv. Example of Russian b'chayros. It explains why. Now here's a very bit of a weird language. Umevarech asher kiddishanu. We bless the nusach of the bracha is asher kiddishanu. Sanctify us. Ki, because hamaseh hu ha'ikar. Now that's a very interesting sentence. He here is explaining something which is the background l'chayra of the thinking of the Rosh, that normally a mitzvah shebelev does not demand bracha. That's what the Rosh said. The Rosh said that Haggadah, since the Ikar Tzura is not me'akev, the Ikar Tzura is lav dafka b'peh, and therefore Mamela, it's a mitzvah shebelev, and the mitzvah shebelev you don't make a bracha. The Maral agrees and disagrees. On one hand, he believed the mitzvah l'saper like the Rambam. You do have to talk as far as the Maral is concerned, just like the Rambam. I doubt I don't know if he even knew the Chuvas Rosh, if it was printed at his time. Okay, whatever it only be, he probably followed Rambam and Shulchan Aruch, which was actually not Shulchan Aruch, but doesn't Rambam. I'm going to say it again, and that is simply that what l'saper, to talk, to relate, the way we're all used to. But he said, even according to the Rambam, which the mitzvah is l'saper, and the l'saper is mi'akev, afal pikein, if you're misaper without havana, is garnished, mitgarnished, mitgarnished. Literally nothing. Thus, ikrei is a new getter of halacha. It's a mitzvah peh she'ikrei belev. And since the mitzvah is ikrei belev, there's no bracha. Why? Because you say asher kiddishanu. And asher kiddishanu is appropriate specifically on a mitzvah which is ikrei b'maisa or dibur versus ikrei belev. What does the morale mean? Here's your svara. Here's the source of this whole idea that a mitzvah shebelev there's no bracha, or according to the morale, a mitzvah she'ikrei belev is no bracha. Why? Because we say asher kiddishanu, and therefore ki means because. Why do we say asher kiddishanu? Because hamaisu ha'ikar equals without hamaisu ha'ikar we would not say asher kiddishanu. This is the language of the Maral. The language of Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvah is only appropriate if it's a mitzvah which is ikar b'maisa, not belev. You know, it's how would you understand that? Now, this is the type of question which I should stop the shir and let you think and come back to me, because this is really something worth thinking about. Something. So, what does it mean? I think the answer is. Those who learn midrashim or other disciplines realize asher kiddishanu b'mitzvaysav, which literally means raise us into transcendency vis-a-vis his mitzvahs. Kadosh obviously means transcendent. Read Ramban, beginning of Parshas Kadosh. The chiddush of Matan Torah was, as brought down in midrashim, that elyonim lamata v'tachtonim lamala, which meant to say, before Matan Torah, without a tzivui from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a davar chomri would not transform into a chefs of kedusha. Therefore, the only chefs of kedusha that we had was only with a tzivui, which was the mila, which therefore Avram Avinu had to tell his servant, Simna Yotcha Taches Yerechi. For Nikitas Chayfis to be typhus a davish of Kedusha. The Chiddush of Asher Kiddushan Mitzvot, they transcended us, lies in the fact that really, that it is our earthly reality, not thought, which is obviously much more profound, feelings, even speech, but the thing which is furthest from thought, which is speech and action, there is Kedusha. You can sanctify your words, you can sanctify your actions. You put on today a black boxes of cowhide on your hand and arm, and that is called a chefz of Kedusha. That is called Tashmishay Mitzvah or Tashmishay Kedusha. That's Tashmishay Kedusha. It's not Tashmishay Mitzvah Tefillin. It's not like tzitzis, which are Tashmishay Mitzvah, Tashmishay Kedusha. They're Chayiv Gniza. That cowhide transformed into a Kedusha of Kedusha, so Tashmishay Kedusha. It's a big nafkamina. There's an Isser, Leisasuken L'Shem Elokeichem on that if you destroy it. If you take a, say, klaf behemim, write oisis out L'Shem Sefer Torah, that becomes a Sefer Torah with that chorus. So it seems to be that the idea here is very simple. And that is the Maharal believes that Asher Kiddushan, when we talk about Asher Kiddushan Mitzvaysev and Sivanu, we focus predominantly on the ultimate Kedusha, which is Maaseh HaMitzvahs or Dibur HaMitzvahs. The thought, the idea of a mitzvah shebelev is not where we tell us the word of Kedusha. Kedusha is even things which are further than Machshava. Rather, Dibur or Maaseh and Olam HaGashmi, that's what we say Asher Kiddushan Mitzvaysev. That's where Chazal were Masake and Lashon Asher Kiddushan Mitzvaysev, that we can rise to transcendency even at the levels of Dibur and Maaseh. Machshava somehow everyone understands, oh, that's special and supernal. This is obviously knowing Maharal. This is the thinking of the Maharal. I don't have further on this. I'm not a great master of Maharal to know parallels to this in his writings. I don't own those other modern editions. Well, if anybody has them and can find something on this, please send me an email or WhatsApp. I would love to.
Is that why there's no bracha on tefillah?
We'll get there shortly. That's the question which the Rishonim asked. So before I say Svaralach, I'd like to read what the Rishonim say. Okay? Also on Birchas HaMazon. Also on Birchas HaTorah, which is a mitzvah deraisa according to the Ramban. There's a lot of questions like that. This is basically Adrab. So we come to a conclusion that the bracha is only on a mitzvah of Dibur or on a mitzvah of Maaseh, because the mitzvah which is Ikrei B'Lev, that is something which is something which is not appropriate for the Lashon Asher Kiddushan. This is what the Maharal says. Okay, so we have in front of us, look at this very carefully. This Maharal does not at all fit with the Rush. We have here now a Machlekes. The Rush clearly writes that although it's a mitzvah shebelei, but if hypothetically if there was a mitzvah l'saper, not just to the children but even to yourself, then there would be a bracha. That's what the Rush said. The Rush says, why is there no bracha? Because you really don't have to say it the whole time, only if the children ask. But if the mitzvah would have been like the Rambam, you always have to say, the Rush would have said, you need a bracha. Obviously, what the Maharal is doing is explaining things that Das Rambam. This idea of Ikrei Balev. Where's the Nekudas HaMachlekes? The Nekudas HaMachlekes is this new concept of Ikrei Balev. Ikrei Balev means to say, if it's a mitzvah shebediber, but its goal is the leiv, and the leiv is miyakev, that is called Ikrei Balev, and the B'ai Gavna, there's no bracha. This is what the Rush argues. The Rush believes that if the Maaseh, there's a Maaseh shebediber, and there's a Kiyam shebediber, although it could be that there is miyakev, I don't say there's not miyakev, it's still possible to say Asher Kiddushan Mitzvaysev, because the mitzvah of Dibur, if the tzura is constant, there's a mitzvah of saying Asher Kiddushan Mitzvaysev. You are sanctifying the Dibur. Masha Enkein, a Liber de Maharal, no, since the Dibur is only a medium and I'm sorry for a Matorah, and it's Ikrei Balev, that is a reason why you're not taking a bracha. So this is the Nekudas HaMachlekes here. I have no right to say that the Rambam subscribes to this thinking of the Maharal, but he clearly is trying to explain Lefi Das Rambam. I would say that if we have to say anything, he is mufrach from the Tshuvas HaRosh. So whether this idea of Ikrei Balev is a truth la'alocha pashas, we would have to say no, unless we find a Rishon which is forced to say this principle, we couldn't prove it. I'd like to prove that this is really not accurate. And so this is something which is daily Rishonim argue with. If you don't mind, I sent you a last packet of my Mekayim's literally before on this Maharal. I'd like to elaborate a bit on it. We still have another 10 minutes. Is that okay? Are we good? Do I have 10 minutes? I don't even know if I have 10 minutes. Well, let's try. If anybody everyone has to leave, please leave it. I'm going to go on till 7:10. Okay, now this idea that a davar she'ikra balev, and if the kavanah is me'akev, it's called ikra balev and there's no bracha, it would seem to be the Gdolei HaRishonim disagree with this. Now, what is this? Yosef, you're expecting 3. This isn't the tish. Okay, I don't have my scotch with me. Okay, the Shulchan Aruch, the Tur writes in Orach Chaim Tov Lamed Vav. This is Erev Pesach. We know there's a concept of Dikas Chametz, Bir Chametz, which are 2 things together, and also Bittul Chametz. Does one make a bracha on Bittul? Does one make a bracha on Bittul? For example, you forgot to be Baidik, or you have things which you can't be Baidik. It's in America. Excuse me. It's not. It's a place where you can't do bdika. Gemara says that you have chayrim, which you're afraid to go in too deep because of snakes and scorpions. You're not baidek. You're mavatel b'lei. You make a bracha on that. So the Torah writes in Shachach v'leibadak Yevatel kishiagia Pesach. This is Tov Lamed Vav. Ule'in bracha Katav Bal Hamanik, Sefer Hamanik, very very famous source of French Piskei Halachos. It's a Hilchos Pesach Siman Yud Ches. Im hu yodea sheyesh lo chametz. If he knows that there's chametz there, just he can't get there. It's a deep hole, or it's somewhere in the middle of Australia, and I'm in Israel. Yivorech ala bittul chametz. He should make a bracha on bittul chametz. V'im lav lo yivorech, and if not, he should not make the bracha. If he doesn't know, it's a safek bracha lo hakel. But Nira, the Torah disagrees and says, Sha'afilu yodea sheyesh lo chametz bebeisoi, even if he knows that there is chametz in his house, Eino tzarich levarach, he does not need to make a bracha on the bittul. Why? Kivan she'ikar habittul b'liboy, because ikar habittul is b'liboy, it's in his heart. Ve'im mechashiv b'liboy levato, and if he thinks to do bittul, sagid is more than enough. Delo matzinu bracha on machshava shebelev. We haven't found a bracha on machshava shebelev. Okay. Although we know it's a minhag to say this Aramaic language of Kol Chamira, which we all know is not found in the Talmudim, it's only found in Kisvei HaGaonim, as the Ran brings in Psachim. Lo matzinu shetiknu chachamim ze. We haven't found. This is found Takonis Chachamim. It's Ela Nagu Kach. It's a minhag of the Gaonim to say this language. Now look at that tour, and I would almost ask the question, does he agree with the Maharal or doesn't agree with the Maharal? If you read carefully, you see the tour openly disagrees with the Maharal, and so does the Manik. The tour clearly writes that if hypothetically it would be a Takonas Chazal to say Bittul B'peh, then you would make a bracha. Everybody agrees that saying bittul without knowing what you're saying is a meaningless activity. And the litmus test to define something as ikar b'leiv or ikar b'peh, according to Maharal, is what happens if you don't understand what you're doing, is it meaningful or not? Didn't the Maharal write that anything which if you don't understand what you're doing, this is called ikar b'leiv, although you're doing it b'peh? Didn't the Maharal write that Sipur, Yetziat Mitzrayim, which is the mitzvah of Sipur, but since if you don't understand what you're doing, it's called Ikrei Balev, and there's no bracha. Well, if that's the case, bittul should be in the same category, that even if there was a Takonas Chazal to say Amira B'Peh, you would still not make a bracha because it's Ikra B'Lev. There's no one that dreamed that saying Kol Chamira and not knowing what you're saying, that there is bittul. Bittul by definition means subjective annihilation. I perceive this as meaningless. That's a subjective reality which must be comprehended. This is not some kind of a chant that you throw holy waters and put incense. The Mefurish and Tur, Nish with the Maral. So not only, as I said, the Rosh, I'm going cleverly, it's also the Rosh's son, the Tur, reflects the same idea that he totally disagrees with this Maral. It would seem to me definitely that the Manik disagrees with this Maral. The Manik says Mefurish that you even make the bracha. Now, why does the Manik think you make the bracha? L'chayra lo matzinu bracha ala machshava. The answer is the Beis Yosef himself writes in Siman Tov Lamed Daled. The Tur brings in Tov Lamed Daled va'achar abdika miyad balayla yivatlenu v'yomar kol chamira. You must say. The Beis Yosef writes, Kosef Haran, quotes the Ran, Lashon zon eino b'Gemara, this is not found in the Talmud, and lekach hi mekubu b'idei ha'ga'onim. Oh, he quotes the Shiltos. He has a question on the Ran. Why do you think it's nowhere? It's only in the Shiltos and the Gainim. It's a Yerushalmi, and here he quotes the Yerushalmi. The Garcinon bePerik Kol Sha'ah. This is Perik Beis Psachim Halacha Beis. Rav Omar, Rav, the famous Rav. There's a few members of Rav which we know how Baidik Tzorch She'avatel. That's the famous Gemara which quotes that in, and on that member, Rav continues and says, Tzorch She'yomar. What is bittul? Says Tzorch She'yomar. So just like you understand that Baidik Tzorch She'avatel is a takana, so the Tzorch She'yomar is also a takana. My nafkamina. Tzorch She'yomar kol chametz sheyeshli b'toich beisi ve'eni yodea boy yivatel. So it's Mefurish, there's a Tzorch She'yomar, that same Rav, which says, Aboidik Tzorch She'yavatel, which we understand is not just an Eitzah Tov, it's a takana. And for the Rishonim is Mashma, that's an ancient takana, which Rav only tells us about it. I'm not going to that. When you learn Psachim, one day you'll see it. It's an ancient Tanoik takana, which Rav is reiterating. The same thing, Tzorch She'yomar, there's no reason to differentiate. It's an old takana. Zok the Beis Yosef. So how could the Ran possibly say she's not found in the Talmudim? Since the Aramaic that we're saying has more than that, it says Ka'afra Da'ara. It says Delay Biarte. There are a few words there. There's more. V'gam eno b'loshen ha'kodesh k'mo shu b'Yerushalmi. The Ran said, the Ran never said that there's no takana of Amira. The Ran only said that the minig that we're doing now is a lashon, a language which is not found in the Talmudim. There's more than what's found in the Talmud. It's in Aramaic, not in Hebrew. But the basic idea that there's a takana of Amira midrabanan is there. Rabbeinu shekasa b'siman tov lamedvav she'im mechayish b'libai sagi apapi shenoy gelemek l'chamira lo matzin shtik l'chachamim yesh l'tma alav. This is a puzzle. The kivan shenimtza Yerushalmi zeh, we see this Yerushalmi hare matzina, we find shetiknu chachamim levatel b'peh. The chachamim were misaking to do bittul b'peh, and this is a tzorich iyun gadol on the Tur. This is a question. So at the end of the day, that's what we have here. Now we have something quite clear. We have here the manig is simply saying you make a bracha, although the kavanah is mi'akev, because there's a takana of Amira. Because he knows that Yerushalmi. But what do we see? That although the kavanah is ma'akev, as long as there's a takana of Amira in Bittul, you make a bracha. The Tur obviously oblivious and not aware of this Yerushalmi, as the Beis Yosef mentions. Ultimately, there he thinks there is no takana of Amira, it's only a minig of Amira, so it's a mitzvah which has no dibur at all. Then everyone agrees that there's no bracha.
Basically, you can say that the Torah is oblivious to a Yerushalmi?
The Beis Yosef thinks so. I'm hiding behind the bekishe or turban of the Beis Yosef. Whatever I'm hiding behind, I don't know. I'm hiding behind the Beis Yosef here.
Beis Yosef has the right to say that the Torah is oblivious to Yerushalmi.
I have nothing to say. I really hurt. I have no answer. I'm going to say, as I said before, I hide behind the Beis Yosef when I say that question. Yeshli Tma means this is a puzzle. It doesn't make sense. Not a kasha. It's a tema. It's a jaw dropper.
Doesn't mean it's oblivious. No, it just means
you know what
he does with it.
I would say, I would the best say either he found some very creative way, had a different girsa in Yerushalmi, which you would have to have kisveyat to say that, which I'm not going to do. Again, I'm not going to make suggestions. The most logical thing to say, he wasn't aware of it. And that's not a problem. You understand that not all the Rishonim saw all the Yerushalmis. Not everybody was the Rosh Mishans. I can show you endless Rishonim which you have Yerushalmis against them. Whew. You learn it, you'll see. That's no big deal. This is what we seem to be having here. Or unless you can't say lo nimtza. If you were to say nimtza b'Yerushalmi v'kivan shelo baba bavli lo naktinan kain, that would have been cute. That would have been a possibility. He says lo nimtza b'gemur, not found. That's true. It is found. So it's going to be very hard to explain that without saying that he was not aware of it. But you know what I mean. Let Caesar have his own. I'm not even going to argue this point. Okay, I appreciate your kanos and the respect for the tour and the great. But
no, it's just a question.
Torah hu v'limud ani tzorich, etc. We'll leave it at that. Okay. Okay, so we can now sum this up so far. We have Shitza Rosh, the Tur, and the Manik, which is Pasha says that something, if there would be a din of Dibur per se, even if the Machshav is Ma'akev, there would be a Makom of Bracha. We have the Maral trying to explain something which may be the Rambam, say that no, if it's Ikrei Belev, although there is a din Dibur, if the Kavan is Ma'akev, there is no Bracha. Now, practical halacha l'maisa, if you have the daily Rishonim arguing with the Tower of the Marashal, it usually is not beget a suffix. Okay, therefore, l'maisa, one would not be naked this Maral Ladina, and now we have a problem. What's Takab Shat in the Rambam? Why, according to the Rambam, don't we make a bracha? This is the question on the table for the next year. Why, according to the Rambam, which is a mitzvah of Sipur, Kipshutai, why don't we make a bracha on the Agada? And this will be the topic for tomorrow. Have a great evening.